I used to think that being ready for the one was this feeling like one day you'd wake up and the air tastes different and you're like, yep, I'm ready. Send her in. Like the universe is a hostess at a restaurant and they're saying your table's ready. And then you get older and you realize that life's not like a hostess. Life's more similar to a drive-through speaker that cuts out in the middle of your order. And you're like, hello? And it's just static. So when do you actually know you're ready for the one? I think the first thing you have to admit is that the one isn't a person that you find. It's a person that you build with and a person that you choose, and then you keep choosing when it stops being dramatic. Because the more I experience, the more I see how people are in love with the idea that of the one, because it gives them an escape from reality and from responsibility. If there's the one, then you don't have to get better at relationships. You don't have to learn how to communicate. You don't have to regulate your emotions. You don't have to learn to be consistent. You just wait for the magical person who will make everything seem effortless. And then when things aren't effortless, you just assume that they weren't the one. And this is such a convenient belief system. But the thing is, I do believe in the one, just not in the way that they show up as a completed product. I think the one is the person that you're willing to become a better human for. And they're willing to do it as well. Not because you're forcing each other, but because you actually care. So being ready isn't, am I healed? Because nobody's fully healed. Everyone's got something. Readiness is more like, do I have the capacity to do love like it's real life and not like it's a fantasy? Because fantasy love is easy. Fantasy love is you laying in your bed at 1 a.m. imagining the perfect person who texts perfectly and understands you perfectly and never triggers anything in you. Real love is you being tired, hungry, stressed, miscommunicating, and still trying to, and not trying, but still choosing to repair instead of get mad at each other and punish each other for it. Real love is you learning how to argue without trying to win. That's a huge one, by the way. People don't talk about that. So many people think they want the one, but what they really want is a person they can control. They want someone who will never contradict them, someone who is always going to validate them, someone who will always agree with their worldview and what they have to say. And that isn't love, that's just a mirror. And mirrors can't build a life with you. They just reflect who you are. So when do you know you're ready? You're ready when you stop needing a relationship to be proof of your worth. That's the big one that quietly runs everything, because if you're dating to prove that you're lovable, you're not dating for love, you're dating for evidence. You're dating for a receipt that you can hold up to your brain or to your friends or your family and be like, see, someone chose me, so I'm not a loser. And if you do that, the one will feel like oxygen. Which, sounds romantic until you actually think about it, because you need oxygen to survive. And oxygen addiction is panic. Because then your relationship isn't a relationship, it's a life support machine. And life support machines are fragile. The moment something wobbles, you start freaking out. You start chasing reassurance. You start needing constant proof. Being ready means you can let love be a bonus and not a bandage. And I'm not saying you have to be some perfectly independent monk who never needs anyone. That's not human either. I mean, you're ready when your life is not waiting to begin until someone shows up. I've seen so many people delay their own existence. Like, when I get into a relationship, then I'll start doing this and that. I'll start to travel. I'll start going out. I'll start taking care of myself. And it's like, no, that's backwards. If you can't show up in your own life, why do you suddenly think that you'll be able to show up for somebody else's? A relationship doesn't fix your foundation. In fact, it tests it, it sees if it's strong enough. And that's what people find out too late. So readiness looks like having a life that you're already building. It's not going to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be flashy or impressive to people. It just has to be honest. Like, you have routines, you have goals, you have a direction, you have a sense of what matters to you. Because the one is not going to hand you a personality. You already have to be someone. And I don't mean that in like a grind set kind of way. I mean, you know what you stand for. You're ready when you can answer simple questions without feeling like you're lying. What do I want? What do I want from this? What do I need? What am I not willing to tolerate? What kind of love do I actually want to give? And what kind of love do I want to receive? Because a lot of people say that they want love, but they don't actually know what they mean by it. They think love is attention, they mean validation. They mean someone to fill the silence or the hole in their heart. They mean someone to make them feel chosen. But love is deeper than that. It's slow. It's responsibility. And here's something that I think really matters. You can tell if you're ready for the one by how you handle a boring afternoon. And this sounds stupid, I know, but hear me out, okay? If you can't handle a boring afternoon without running to dopamine, maybe video games, TV, social media, drama, whatever, then you're not ready for a long-term relationship. Because long-term love includes boredom. It includes routine. It includes quietness. Not a dead quiet, just a normal life quiet. Cooking dinner, doing laundry, running errands, watching a show, sitting in the car together and not talking much because you're both so tired. And if you think those moments are meaningless, you'll always sabotage what could be real because you'll confuse intensity with connection. You'll constantly be searching for the fireworks instead of the warmth that makes a relationship last. I also think you're ready when you stop trying to find the one and start trying to become the kind of person who can recognize them. Because people miss good partners all the time. Not because they're blind, but because they're addicted to a certain type of feeling. They're attracted to the wrong metrics. They'll start measuring love by how nervous somebody makes them feel. They'll start measuring compatibility by how obsessed they feel 2 weeks in. And then someone stable shows up and it feels off. So readiness is when you can see stability and not interpret it as a lack of passion. Readiness is when you can relax into someone's presence instead of treating every interaction like it's a test. And this part is important. You're ready when you can be honest without feeling like honesty is too much. Because if you're still in that phase where you think being real and opening up is embarrassing, you're not ready for the one. You're ready for a situationship, sure, because situationships are built on vagueness. But real love is built on seeing each other clearly. And that's not aggressive. It's kind, it's a gift. So if you can't say what you want, you're not ready. Not because you're bad, not because you're a bad person, because you're still afraid of being seen. And you can't have the one while hiding. You can have attention while hiding, sure. You can have hookups while hiding. You can have surface level relationships while hiding. But you can't build a real partnership that's going to last a lifetime while keeping half of yourself locked in the closet. Another way you'll know if you're ready is when you stop fantasizing about being understood and instead you start willing to be explained. This is huge. People love saying, I just want someone who gets me. Okay, but do you get you? Do you understand your emotions enough to be able to communicate them to other people? Because if you don't, you'll expect your partner to read your mind. And then when they can't do that, you'll feel that they're not the one, or that you'll feel unloved, and you'll call them not the one. But in reality, you never even gave them a map. So readiness is being able to say, this is how I feel, this is what I need, this is what I'm scared of, this is what hurts me, this is what helps me. Not perfectly, not like a therapist, just as a human. You're also ready when you can handle the fact that the one is going to disappoint you sometimes. It's where people secretly aren't ready. They think they are, but they're not. They want a person who never drops the ball, never forgets, never gets moody, never gets overwhelmed, never changes. But humans change, and they will change. So readiness is accepting that you can love someone deeply and still have moments when you're like, bro, what are you doing? And instead of turning that moment into a story, they don't care about me, they're evil, it's over, you turn it into a conversation. Readiness is emotional maturity, not emotionlessness, maturity. And maturity is the ability to stay grounded while your feelings are loud. Because feelings can lie, man. Feelings are dramatic. Feelings are like that friend that texts you, we need to talk, and then ignores you for 2 hours and then responds with, never mind, lol. So you need to be able to feel things without immediately exploding a relationship. That's readiness. I think you're ready when your standards stop being a list of aesthetic traits and start being a list of character traits. Because, sure, looks matter. Attraction matters. I'm not going to do the whole looks don't matter lie. But if your definition of the one is basically a Pinterest board, you're not ready. If they're, oh, I only date gym girls, I only date goth girls, oh, I only date gym guys, you're just shopping at that point. The one becomes clear when you care more about how they move through life than how they look in photographs. How do they treat people when they're stressed? How do they handle conflict? Do they keep their word? Are they kind when nobody benefits from it? Do they have humility? Can they apologize without acting like they're dying? Because I swear, watching someone apologize tells you more about them than watching them flirt. Flirting's easy, right? Not for everyone, but if you get it down, it's easy. Apologizing shows the cracks in that. It shows your character. And you don't even need to have some deep interrogation to figure this out. Life reveals it, but only if you're patient enough to let it. That's another part of readiness. Patience. People want the one on a deadline. They want them now, but they also want them perfect. They want the relationship to feel like a movie, but they want it to be stable as well, like a marriage. They want excitement, but they also want predictability. And it's like, okay, chill. You're asking for two different realities. You're asking for the opposite of each other. You're ready when you can let a relationship unfold without trying to force certainty too early, but also without accepting confusion as a lifestyle. There's a middle ground, and finding that middle ground is maturity. And I'll tell you something that is something that I've thought about, but I won't try to make it about me. One of the biggest signs you're ready is when you stop running from your own patterns. You know what I mean? If you always shut down when things get real, you know. If you always get defensive, you know it. If you always chase the person that you want who isn't showing you affection, you know it. If you always withdraw when things are a bit hard, you know it. Readiness is when you can finally say, yeah, I do that, and I'm not proud of it, and I'm working on it. Because you can't build the one with someone while pretending that you don't have an ego. Everyone has an ego. The question is, can you notice it before it drives the relationship off a cliff? And here's something that's more of a tangent, but It's oddly practical. You're ready when you can be consistent, not with grand romantic gestures, consistent with basic things, with communication, with effort, with being there when they need you and you may not feel like it. A lot of people want the one, but they live like their emotions are the boss. If they feel good, they'll show up. If they feel weird, they won't. If they feel insecure, they'll start testing the other person. If they feel bored, they're gonna seek novelty. And that's not readiness. That's being controlled by your emotions. Ready people can still have those feelings, of course, but they don't let those feelings dictate the behavior that hurts someone else. Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a responsibility that you carry. And the truth is, you'll never feel 100% ready. If you wait until you feel perfectly prepared for love, you're going to be alone forever, because love requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is always going to feel risky. So the question isn't, am I ready? It's, am I willing? Am I willing to be seen, to be honest, to repair myself, to grow? Am I willing to choose someone consistently instead of chasing a feeling? Because the one isn't not the person who makes you feel butterflies forever. That doesn't exist. The one is the person you can build peace with and still feel alive with and still respect when the fantasy fades away and real life shows up. And you'll know when you're ready for them too, when you stop trying to use love to escape yourself, when you actually like your own life, when you trust your own mind, when you can be alone without collapsing, when you can say what you want without feeling shame, when you can handle imperfection without turning it into something very bigger than it is. That's readiness. And if you're not there yet, it's not a sentence, it's not a judgment. That just means you have time to become someone that you respect. Because the hardest part about being ready for the one is this. It's not about finding them faster. It's about being able to keep them when you do. And if you're trying something new, like actually preparing your heart for something real instead of just wanting the idea of it, just know, I believe in you. You got this. Have a good day.